When I look back on what I saw back there, in that small town, all I feel is numb. What else can you feel in the face of such horror? The case that I'm about to present before you is disturbing. It's not a pleasant story, and it's certainly not for those of weak of heart and stomach. But it's a story that needs to be told. It all began in the woods surrounding a small town about a month ago. It was in these woods that the first victim was found, a man by the name of Tom Grady. His body was found naked, his face skinned off. The police's main suspicions were on a crazy drug-fueled murder of some sort, or maybe a regular drug-fueled naked run through the woods that ended in a meeting with a bear. Extraordinary, but simple when you looked at it. That was until they checked his stomach contents. The coroner, a solid man by any standard, had to get out of the room to vomit into a trash can. They found his face and his stomach. The main theory shifted again. The man was drugged on some crazy shit, and did what he did on drugs. That one lasted as long as a month before the forensic report came back. The man was as clean as a teddy bear. Just crazy then. It couldn't be anything else. But then it happened again. Two bodies together in the woods. A man and a woman, naked, and their faces skinned. At least this time, the coroner didn't vomit when he pulled out their half-digested faces from their digestive tracts. Nor were there any theories for any negative test results to dash. Only blind confusion. It happened again. A kid this time, 15 and naked in the woods. And again, even younger, 13. And it kept happening. Every couple of days, a new victim in the woods. A figure started forming when the local newspapers printed the first sighting of the Skinman. An old photo, black and white, with just one small caption: "Taken in the woods." It was poorly lit, showing a figure among the trees, at first glance looking naked. His head was blank, and then as your eyes adjusted, you could see it clearer. From neck down, his whole body was face after face, stitched together to form a humanoid clothing. From this, a legend started to grow. The Skinman was a demonic spirit that lived in the woods, and that would lure people into the woods and made them mutilate themselves. The whole thing was horrific, nasty, and none of my business. I wouldn't have bothered with these urban legends and skinnings at all. At least until I got a phone call from an old college friend named John. The Skinman had taken his 8-year-old son. I was on the extremely shady side of the PI business, and none of my friends ever wanted me to work for them, even if I offered. So I knew that he was calling me out of sheer desperation. I arrived at the town the day after. His household had held up incredibly well after the death. His wife sought comfort from a support group on social media. Tom Grady had been an active member of the group, so the whole community was mourning together. John had a friend on the police force, the coroner who had performed the autopsy. He was how I had gotten the vomit story. Great guy. Together, I and the coroner made a promise to John. I would do anything and everything in my power to find out who it was, illegal or not. The coroner would try to do as much as he could within his power to point his colleagues in the direction I'd give them. We swore an oath in his son's bedroom. It took me 3 months to scrounge up everything that I needed, and at the end of it, I called John and his police friend over. I was surprised to see the coroner arrive first, while John was the one who was late, by an entire hour. Sorry I'm late, I was with my wife trying to find her phone. She lost it sometime. I waved it by. We'll talk later. I solved it. I motioned them to follow me. I led them to my living room where I had set up my projector. I want you to know one thing. None of this is legally enforceable in the court. The only thing you'll get out of watching this is you'll know what exactly is happening in this town. I saw no rejection in their eyes, only grim acceptance. I turned on the projector. On the screen showed a young girl, in a bedroom lying on the bed. The lights were off, and the only illumination came from a window peering outside. John twitched. That's my neighbor's daughter. Yeah, I stole the tape from her parents. He had a disgusted look and he moved as if to block the projector, but I pointed to the screen. Look at the window. The light from her window came from another window. It came from a lamp, shining upon a bedroom. John stepped back, as recognition clicked in his head. It was his son's bedroom, the very night that he had disappeared. He was right there, lying in his bed. Through the girl's window, we could see everything. For a few moments, we sat together in silence, watching the child, as the moment of reckoning drew nearer. And then we heard a loud screeching noise. It was hard to make out what it was due to the heavy distortion. For a few seconds, nothing happened. And then the bedroom door lock turned and opened, revealing a silhouette of a humanoid figure standing in the hallway. It marched forward to his son's bed, hands reaching for him. It crossed the lamplight, and I heard a gasp from beside me as the face of John's wife emerged from the darkness. As we watched, she grabbed her son's shoulders and shook him awake. She whispered something in his ear and took him in her arms. As she carried him down the stairs, the screeching noise started again. Still distorted, but not clear enough to be identified as the sound of a car revving up. I paused the tape. John was frozen, just staring blankly at the screen. Good. Frozen was just how I needed him. Otherwise, he might have punched me for what I did next. I took out a phone, John's wife's phone. I told you that I was shady. As I punched in her password and accessed her group on social media, I pulled up her messages, connected to the projector, and I cast it onto the screen. And then the real story started. The story of a cancer that had been growing in this closed town. The cancer that hid underneath the skin of a support group. The chat showed the slow degradation of the group into a cult. No, not a cult. A cult takes passion. What these people had was intense apathy to human life. Originally, the purpose of the parent support group had been just that. A place for parents to vent and to be comforted. But over the course of several months, the support had been becoming more and more derailed. More posts started showing up about how ungrateful their kids were, how much of their lives the parents had to give up to raise them, how they were forming gangs. They couldn't have raised such bastards, could they? Slowly, a growing belief was starting to spread among the members, that their children were cursed. They were born evil. It was here that the Skinman was really born. It was Sean Theron who dug up the old tale. The Skinman was an ominous figure from an old wives' tale. A dark influencer who wanted to discord and whispered dark things to children, corrupted them until their souls ran black, and then led them to skin their parents alive. Maybe it was supposed to be a joke at first. Who the Skinman? He was the real reason the town's kids were so rotten. Who the Skinman? What other sensible reason was there? None. It was the only reasonable explanation. People started talking about how they sometimes thought their children would spend too much time talking to themselves in their room. How they thought that they might have heard something talking back. how the children seemed awfully fond of the woods. And then one day, it stopped being a joke anymore. A tale from the city came of a boy who had killed his own father. The group was aflame. How could they stand by and watch this dark figure destroy their world? How could no one do anything else when the evidence was so strong? When it was all so obvious? The Skinman was doing it. They had to do something, and they had to be outside of the system, because the Skinman might have gotten to everybody else. Tom Grady, an ardent supporter of the original purpose of the group, was going to shut down the whole thing. He offered a desperate plea to the mob, asking them to come to their senses. That didn't go very well with them. After all, if you couldn't see that the Skinman had to be stopped, you were either getting in the way, or worse, actively supporting him. Once again, it was Sean Theron who had started it. He privately messaged to everybody in the group, begging them to take action against the dark figure that was ruining their lives. Tom was practically a follower of the Skinman by opposing the group. It was kill or be killed. And so they grabbed him. He was their first victim, and their experiment to finalize their method. But the stomach. Once you dismiss the impossible, only the possible, no matter how horrific it might be, remains. Tom was force-fed his own skin, and the group was ecstatic. A celebration all around, and true justice, justice that the system wouldn't understand. A victory against the Skinman. John's wife sent more than a few flirty messages to the hero, Sean. From there, the horrific crusade continued. The parents were given the duty of purifying their children, and so they did. Their children weren't really their children. They were demons sent by that cursed figure. Demons that had eaten their real children and would soon come to torture them. It was self-defense against the greater evil. Vengeance against the Skinman. And that was that. John had dropped to the floor now, kneeling, his eyes still staring away at nothing. We helped him to his feet and he accompanied him to his home, where we left him, sitting in silence in his living room. From that day on, the very structure of the investigation had changed. Instead of searching for a single killer, the focus turned on the parents, and the results came rushing. Dozens arrested in the first week. John's wife was one of the first. It should have been the biggest story of our time, but it isn't. The story hasn't spread at all. Sean Theron was the editor of the newspaper. There was absolutely nothing found against him, not even on the Grady case. I don't know how a guy like that is so freaking clean, but he's still free now. Free to run his pen all over the morning news. All the people of this lonely little town knows now is that the skeptics and the pig-headed police were now arresting ordinary people for the crimes of the dreaded Skinman. His daughter hadn't disappeared. Yet. Despite my very presence there putting me at risk, I managed to get a message through to his wife. Recently the newspapers had turned against her, openly calling her a whore and a liar. I hope to God she gets custody. A heavy fear hangs on me that I won't be able to enter the town again. John's been at the police station, protesting day and night at his wife's ignorance. He's talking about possession and shapeshifting. He still believes in the Skinman. Recently, not 1 hour ago, I got a text from my police friend. It was about John's wife. She's now saying that the Skinman made her do it.